Hello, and welcome to the third episode of Power Dynamics for Life. My name is Dr. Aisha Haynes-Belizaire, and I am an educator, strategist, and empowerment leader. Today's topic is 4 courageous women who inspired and empowered a nation. Every person has a purpose and a calling in this life. You may think that you need to have a particular background, education, or experience in order to do something great, but that is not the case. For every great moment in history, there is a person who was created to meet that moment. And even if you come from humble beginnings, that does not exempt you from greatness. The 4 women we will be talking about today are personal sheroes of mine, not only for their courage, but for their deeply held faith and commitment to freedom, justice, and improving the human condition. Harriet Tubman, Fannie Lou Hamer, Dolores Huerta, and Marie Ivanovich are all women of different races and backgrounds whose courage propelled them to the national and international stages, thus turning the tide of history. So, going in chronological order, I would first like to talk about Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was born in 1822 in the state of Maryland into slavery. She was beaten severely as a child, even having a metal weight thrown at her head, which resulted in a cracked skull. Because of this injury, she would have periods of time where she would go into unconscious states. During these unconscious states, she said that she got visions and could hear from God and got direction from God. In 1849, Harriet Tubman ran away to the north, but she soon returned to get her family and friends. She returned to the south over a dozen times to help others escape, which gave her the nickname Moses because she helped her people out of bondage. She would often sing spirituals like Wade in the Water and Sweet Chariot as a signal for the enslaved people to meet her at the riverbank to get ready to go on their mission north. As she went through the network of safe houses on the Underground Railroad, she was guided by the light of the North Star. During the Civil War, Harriet Tubman became the first woman to ever lead a military operation. She led the raid on the Combahee River in South Carolina, which gave the Union Army much needed ground and also freed over 750 enslaved people. Upon freedom, most of them joined the Union Army. Harriet Tubman settled in Auburn, New York, where she was very active in her church, giving some of her property over to the church to build the Harriet Tubman Home for the Aged, and she was very active in the women's suffrage movement. In 2016, President Barack Obama advised his Treasury Department to begin a design on Harriet Tubman's image to go on the $20 bill. When Obama left office, this project was stalled. However, President Biden has picked the project back up, and we should be seeing Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill in the very near future. The next woman I would like to talk about is Fannie Lou Hamer. Fannie Lou Hamer was born in 1917 in rural Mississippi to parents who were sharecroppers. She started picking cotton at the age of 6 and attended a segregated one-room school where she went until she was 12 years old, but she had to leave because she had to work in the fields. In the early 1960s, she attended a meeting at her church that was held by the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which the name is SNCC. They were talking to the people in the community about registering to vote, and she volunteered to lead the way to go and register to vote. Upon returning home, she was fired from her job and kicked off of the property where she and her husband lived for her activities. Realizing that she was a natural leader and a very passionate and committed person, SNCC hired Fannie Lou Hamer as a field secretary. On her way back from a protest, she was jailed and beaten with a blackjack and beaten by several men to the point of almost near death. She sang in her cell, "Walk with me, Lord," all night long as she slipped in and out of consciousness. Fannie Lou Hamer was also one of the co-founders of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. In 1964, she traveled to Atlantic City to the Democratic Convention to testify about the violence African Americans experienced in Mississippi when they attempted to attain first-class citizenship. Her testimony was so moving that it was televised across the nation. Fannie Lou Hamer continued to work throughout her life to improve the conditions of for poor people, African Americans, and also women. She did this work until she was too ill to work in the last years of her life, and she died in 1977 from cancer and complications from the beating she received when she was in jail. The next woman that I would like to talk about is Dolores Huerta. And Dolores Huerta was born in 1930 in New Mexico to Mexican-American parents. Her parents divorced when she was 3 years old, and her mother and brothers moved to the farming community in Stockton, California. Raised in the Catholic Church and with the deep appreciation and commitment for helping the poor, Dolores Huerta became a teacher, but was very upset to find that the majority of her students were in a state of being so impoverished that they were malnourished and barely had adequate clothing. This upset her and made her decide that she had to do something to be more involved. In the early 1960s, Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez founded the United Farm Workers to try to advocate for better wages and better working conditions for the migrant farm working population. Dolores Huerta raised to believe that she was equal to any man and had a very strong personality and relentless work ethic, was often called a force of nature. She worked tirelessly as she was the director of the national director of the Delano Grape Strike and Boycott. She traveled the nation organizing people to stop buying grapes, and by the end of the boycott, over 17 million people stopped buying grapes. In 1970, she became one of the first women to negotiate a labor contract. The United Farm Workers won for their workers higher wages, better working conditions, the use of less poisonous pesticides, and collective bargaining rights. She also was successful with lobbying this California state legislature to get driving license tests and voting ballots also to be written in Spanish. Dolores Huerta in 1988 was beaten in a protest in San Francisco by the San Francisco police, which required her to have emergency surgery. The settlement that she received from that that case, she used to start the Dolores Huerta Foundation, where she trains the next generation to advocate for social justice and women's rights. In 2012, President Barack Obama recognized her with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Today, Dolores Huerta is still very active at 92 years old. The next person and final person that I want to talk about is Ambassador Marie Ivanovich. Marie Ivanovich was born in 1958 in Canada to Russian parents who had fled Stalin and the Nazis during World War II in Europe. They settled in Connecticut when she was 3 years old, and she was raised in the Russian Orthodox Church, where her family valued human rights and justice for all people. Marie Ivanovich joined the Foreign Service in 1986 and was assigned to primarily foreign Soviet states to promote democracy, fight corruption, and to advance the rights of women and human rights. She is highly respected in the national security communities, and she had won numerous awards, including the Presidential Distinguished Senior Foreign Service Award. In 2019, while serving as ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Ivanovich was subject to a vicious and dangerous smear campaign, and she was called back from her post in Ukraine by President Trump in attempts to extort the Ukrainian president. Marie Ivanovich was the first government employee to answer a subpoena in the first Trump impeachment trial. Can you imagine testifying? Can you imagine the courage that it would take to stand up to a president, especially a president who prides himself on being vengeful and exacting revenge on his enemies? The day that she testified in the impeachment trial, to give her strength, she wore her father's cross and socks that said courage, and the words of Maya Angelou on the socks that said, "And still I rise." Today, Marie Ivanovich works at Georgetown University, training the next generation of Foreign Service leaders. How can you make a difference in this world? What can you do to make the world a better place? Find your lane, forge your path, and maximize every opportunity to make a difference. Thank you for spending some time with us here today on Power Dynamics for Life. We are a new channel, so I am asking you to comment, like, share, subscribe, and I hope to be seeing you very soon. My name's Dr. Aisha Haynes-Belizaire, and thank you very much once again. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.